Against the backdrop of Donald Trump's controversial decision to withdraw 5,000 U.S. Army soldiers from Germany, NATO forces unexpectedly carried out a large-scale troop redeployment. Today it became known that NATO countries are conducting large-scale military exercises all along the Russian border. Tens of thousands of soldiers are taking part in the exercises, and the goal of the maneuvers is to practice planning and conducting defensive operations in the event of a conventional war with Russia. In addition to this, against the backdrop of Trump's decision not to deploy Tomahawk missiles to Germany, which could have reached Moscow, Berlin has officially proposed to Kyiv to jointly develop and produce their own long-range missiles. In addition, Germany is also investing billions of euros in modernizing ports to enable rapid deployment, heavy tanks and other heavy military equipment closer to Russia. At the same time, Sweden is launching 10 spacecraft into orbit, which will be used for reconnaissance near the Russian borders and monitoring military activity in the region. The point is that in addition to troops on the ground, in the air, and at sea, NATO has also decided to put Russia under round-the-clock surveillance. My name is Alexei Pecci, let's discuss this topic together. But before we start this episode, please subscribe to the channel, give this episode a like, and leave a comment under this video. Now, let's begin. So, the United States of America has begun the process of withdrawing about 5,000 of its military personnel from a training ground in Germany. This was reported by the German publication Bild. We're talking about the withdrawal of the Stryker Brigade, which is based in the city of Vilseck in Bavaria. According to Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell, the relocation of the military personnel and their families is expected to be completed within 6 to 12 months. A complete closure of this military base is not expected because after the reduction, between 5,000 and 8,000 service members will continue to serve there. Currently, about 35,000 to 40,000 American military personnel are stationed in Germany. Of these, about 16,000 are based at the Grafenwohr training area and another 10,000 in Vilseck. Together with civilian personnel and families, more than 30,000 Americans live in this region. And it's important to understand that this decision by Trump weakens NATO's eastern flank in Europe because along with the contingent, tank commanders, pilots, weapons specialists and so on are also leaving the region. But in Europe, they are still taking action to minimize these risks from the withdrawal of American troops. For example, today, it is known that NATO countries are conducting large-scale military exercises all along the border with Russia. In Estonia, on Monday, May 4, the military exercises Spring Storm 2026 began, which will last for almost a month. In the most intensive phase, more than 12,000 servicemen from Estonia and allied countries will take part. The purpose of these maneuvers is to practice planning and conducting defensive operations together with the Estonian division and allies in the context of a conventional war with Russia. Allies from the United Kingdom, Germany, Denmark, Spain, Canada, Latvia, Lithuania, the Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Romania, the United States, Ukraine, Finland, France, the Czech Republic, and Sweden are involved in these exercises. The participants will practice rapid redeployment, receiving new units, and integrating them into the operations of the Estonian division. The program includes lessons from Russia's war against Ukraine as well as defensive actions using unmanned systems. At the same time, exercises are also taking place in Lithuania. From May 3 to 5, the Iron Wolf Brigade is conducting tactical exercises called King's Strike. About 1,000 servicemen will take part in them. During the same period, military exercises are also taking place in Poland and Finland. On May, 2 NATO exercises began at the training ground in Orzisz, involving more than 3,500 servicemen, including, by the way, Americans and hundreds of pieces of equipment. Exercises are also taking place at the Finnish training ground Vuosanga, where more than 600 people from the Kainu Artillery Regiment have arrived. In addition to ground forces, aviation is also participating in the exercises. I should note that the Vuosanga training ground is located about 50 kilometers from the Russian border. In the middle of the month, 2 more major stages of the exercises, Metso 126 and Sabre Strike 26, will begin in Finland. The most significant part of the Finnish exercises will begin on May 11 in Vuosanga. At the same time, Sweden today launched its first military satellite of its own into orbit. And in the next 2 years, Sweden plans to deploy about 10 satellites that will be used for reconnaissance near the Russian borders and for monitoring the military. The point is that from now on, Stockholm can independently detect and analyze threats on a global scale without the help of the Americans. The thing is, right now the Swedish military, by the way, just like the Ukrainian military, satellite images from allies or from commercial satellites. Now Sweden is getting its own eyes in space. And so, the buildup of satellite constellations is connected to several factors at once. First of all, Sweden became a member of NATO, and the potential area of operations for its army expanded through the inclusion of other alliance countries. Secondly, Sweden is receiving new weapons with a longer range, which requires remote targeting and intelligence data. But the main reason is that Sweden needs to monitor the situation in Russia, the Baltic region, and the Arctic 24/7. And the Swedish satellite constellation will work in conjunction with the satellite systems of other NATO countries, primarily European ones. Lastly, I'll share an interesting news item. Today, Roderich Kiesewetter, a defense expert from Germany's CDU party, stated that Europe should consider joint missile development with Ukraine in light of the US refusal to deploy Tomahawk missiles in Germany. In his opinion, the US refusal to deploy ships on German territory is a huge mistake and creates additional risks for the region. And so, Kiesewetter emphasized that the absence of American medium-range systems capable of countering the nuclear threat from Russia directly affects the level of protection for European countries. He is confident that the consequences could be more serious than the reduction of the US military presence, including the withdrawal of 5,000 American troops from Germany. And as a possible solution, the experts suggested focusing on creating their own alternative to American weaponry. This refers to the development of missile systems in partnership with Ukraine. And I'll finish with his quote: "The solution is to develop something similar, like Tomahawks, together with Ukraine, so that by 2030 such systems will already be available." I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation or a paid channel membership using the links and details in the description of this video. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.